Hi guys, this is Cindy
And Michael.
from Part-Time Permies, and I think we have a few people in the room, and we do have a bit of a delay going on our video, so this will take a second to catch up with us. But I see, let's see here, Mandy's in the room. Mandy was in the Abundant Permaculture webinar going on. So cool. Welcome, Mandy and Seven Sprouts. Hello, hello.
I think we're only about 10 seconds delayed right now.
That's good. It's
Or
been
less, so it's better. It was
That's
really bad.
better than last week.
Last week was like 45 seconds. I
Yeah.
don't know what was going on. It was bad.
Yeah. Hi, Valerie. Um, so let me actually adjust this so I can see everything at once. That would be nice. Um, yeah, welcome. So we have a bit going on this week. I hope everybody had a good week this last week. And there's Wendy. Cool. We're getting more and more people coming in now. That's awesome. And you guys, I don't know if you noticed. I'm dropping things. Um, I don't know if you noticed, but I have over the last couple weeks started doing a slideshow at the beginning, and Mike's mom's here, enjoying the eggs, zucchini, and tomatoes that we sent back with them.
We got more of all those.
Yeah, we do.
Some,
But no, we've been starting the live show technically at about 5 or 10 to, and then running a slideshow that with the countdown that leads to when we'll go live. So that I'm hoping will just give everybody time to get their notices and come on in the room, so that they know that we're starting up soon. But and hopefully don't mind enjoying a little slideshow while they're at it. And that does give a little preview of what we'll be talking about as well as just some fun pictures that we're able to get this week. Excuse me. But yeah, so we may end up with more in the room here soon. Justin, you were out of the room because you were working, but Justin actually said that we can make a video for their membership page, to post on their membership page. So we have homework to do. We got to
video
figure
of
out
what?
I asked him topics, but he didn't quite answer that. So I might have to text him and ask him what kind of topics they'd be interested in. We could do a video on hugelkultur, but that would be later in the season.
Yeah, I think we're going to be late. It's a while
That'll
out.
be in the fall, but he might be interested in that one since that's actually what the reason why he came out here to begin with, and visited us was to actually go over the hugelkultur, and he talked more about our goose being raised by Silky. um, oh, good to know, Seven Sprouts. I hope that would work, and it gives people a chance to get in the room. Um, but yeah, so I have to think about that. What type, because those are all educational videos. So we have to think about an educational video, that we could put together. We do have a lot of projects on the list to do, but I'm not sure what's going to be the next big one on that we actually do. Because you're busy right now.
Yeah, I got quite a few projects loading up.
Business is business is taking off a little
Getting
bit.
busy, but I still have startup projects
Yeah,
going too. I still have small renovation projects, but they each take some time.
yeah.
And just still putting in pieces on top of everything else. So yeah, but got some orders coming in, so that's good.
Yep, absolutely. So today we'll be going over a few things. If you guys didn't see it, we had a couple of videos launched this week, and I think I have one or two more that I need to edit for this week. So this last week we put together, um, just a quick video on the geese reactions to our fresh water. It's more, I did a water dance video from Lucky, featuring Lucky. I think it was last summer, but I was cleaning out their pools and did a video. Nothing, no educational stuff, just to music, and then how funny the geese are when it comes to water, including Gus putting apples in his water and playing with them. He likes to bob for apples. Um, so, and I'm just trying to read chats and talk at the same time. It doesn't work very well. Uh, and then the other video that we have is on our training with our new dog, Jello. Jello's our old dog. I've been calling this dog Jello probably 2 or 3 times a day. Puddin',
I haven't been calling him Jello that often.
Well,
Very
you've been calling her a him.
occasionally. Yeah.
And I do that too. Um,
We've always had boy dogs.
we have always had boy
Just
dogs here.
just how it worked out.
Yeah, so now we have a girl dog, our Dean. So she's very shy. We got her from your sister. She was much more confident when your sister was here visiting
Yeah, we got her
and
last week,
last
and
week.
then yep, and then
So
my
it was
sister left
on
a week
Sunday.
ago on Sunday, so
Yeah,
we've been working with her for the week.
yeah. So yeah, and the video was recorded on Sunday, that first day she was gone. So she actually did decently well in the video as far as getting close and taking treats and stuff. She won't let us put her collar on, which means we haven't taken her on walks, which means I think she's getting a little bored.
Yeah, she's lazy. She's sleeping all day, but we can't get her out yet till we can get her because she won't really let us touch her yet.
She barely lets me pet
She's
her.
bumped my hand a couple times, but then if you just barely move it
Yeah, she runs
or
away.
open it, she runs away.
She's let me pet her a little bit as I'm giving her treats. So we're working on gaining that trust slowly. The video kind of shows how we're doing that. Someone did ask if we use clicker methods, and we haven't with our previous dogs. We have used the clickers for training, and I would like to do it this time. I just haven't found where our clickers are at the
We
moment.
had some, and
We
then
had
I don't
like
know.
two or
We
three,
had two or three. We some might have got thrown away, but
and
I
maybe
think we have some around. But we should just go get one. They're
probably
like
just go get one.
$2.
Yeah, exactly. They're cheap. I could probably get them even at Myers, maybe, but
Well,
pet stores
I don't think
definitely.
Myers necessarily has them, but
Oh, they have a big
I
pet
do have a big
section.
pet section.
So we'll definitely get clickers and start clicker training. But right now we're just letting her warm up to us. Last week she's sleeping right now. But she's curled in a little ball over there.
She is sleeping. She's hanging out closer to us
Yeah,
than she was a few days ago.
yeah, and not always running away when I'm walking past her.
Yeah, okay, but she gets it in her head when she decides that she's not happy. She runs away for a number of minutes, and then has to rearrange her brain to
Yeah.
be more friendly.
And we actually, and I forget what book it was, a book on dog training that talked about dogs who get into their lizard brain, which is kind of the base of the brain, the oldest part of the brain that has that reaction of flight or fight or flight. And she's definitely flight. She gets nervous, she runs.
I was just looking at our shelf. We've got about 10 books
on dog
training because we had two dogs that both were
had issues.
more challenging than the average dog previously. So she's going to be more challenging than the average dog, at least for the moment, but doesn't have any aggressive tendencies, which we had with one dog. So, so we're going to have to revert to some of those, some of that knowledge from working with difficult dogs to get her up on track.
And one of our difficult dogs, he was not not flight when he was nervous. So we had to really be careful with him. But one of them was just desensitizing and associating whatever they're scared of with something good. And right now, something good is treats, because Puddin is very treat oriented, very food oriented. So, and she likes her hot dogs.
Ready to go right to the hot dog, the little
Get the good stuff.
Little chunky cut ups of hot dogs.
I basically slice them and then quarter those slices. So as small as you can, but just to give her the taste of a treat is enough to get her, a good reaction to it.
Mandy says, try 4 Huskies. They don't do anything we want to. Yeah, our family's had English Bulldogs, which tend to mostly do what they want to.
Yeah.
Our Saint Bernard, you could bribe him with food pretty easily, but otherwise he did what he wanted to.
Yeah.
Our other Great Dane pretty much followed along, and
I find, every Great Dane I've known have been a lot more people oriented. And she is too. She will follow us from room to room or go search us out and make sure we're still somewhere. She, I think to give her reassurance that people are still around.
She wants to hang out, but then
she's scared too.
Half of her brain wants to hang out and be petted and go for a walk. Another half the brain won't let her do it yet.
Yeah. So we're working on it. Puddin's mom has 4 other dogs, so and I talked to her about that as far as if she was okay with giving her to us and everything. Um, she uh, she basically has had a lot of dogs over the years and has gotten to the point where she tends to have a pretty big pack of dogs, and she has friends. If they're thinking about getting a dog, she'll actually lend one of her dogs to her friends, and if they're in a good home and they're getting along well, she will give that dog to that friend. So she's done this multiple times. So I think she's doing all right with it as long as she knows that they're in a good home, and that's really basically it. They are also great Houdinis.
Yep.
The Great Danes, yeah.
No, I think
Or
the Huskies.
Huskies. Okay.
Yeah, Huskies are just smart and
They're smart.
energetic. Yeah.
Danes are smart too. My
Danes
sister.
are very smart, but they tend to be fairly well
They're
behaved.
Scooby Doos.
Yeah.
They're Scooby Doos. They're a little skittish. A lot of them, not all of them. They have their things that they're frightened of. Like our previous Dane would bark at the first sunflower that opened up in the summer, or bark at the AC unit that went into the window when it first went in. Just bark for a day, and then he was okay with it. I'm going to switch genders there.
Pudding has not been. She's not as afraid of as many environmental things.
No.
We had a pretty good thunderstorm. Didn't bother her. Random noises and things falling down, or loud noises and none of that bothers her. Our other Dane was fairly spooked by things like that. She is calm. Not much has bothered her.
No. And she ignores the chicken so far.
Mm-hmm.
She is scared of the cat, so she walks like she will walk around the cat to get past the cat. And I think our cat, Helix, has figured out that the Dane is scared of him, so he's just like whatever.
And he knows relaxed. He's had dogs and Danes
he loves
and likes
dogs.
them, so yeah, I don't think he cares.
I think he thinks he's a dog, but that's another matter. But my sister's Great Dane figured out how to undo 3 gates, 3 different types of latches on 3 different gates, 2 of them from the yard out to the road, and let all my sister's dogs out. And she had 3 dogs at that time. A couple times they had to start bunging or locking their gate, and then figured out how to open a child-proof gate inside the house, the ones where you have to like push one direction and then pull up. Danes are smart. Jello opened a gate once, but he was too scared to go through it.
Yeah, Jello would come right back to the house because he didn't want to be away from. If he got out, he was not a bolter. If the door was open, he would probably go about 20 feet out in the yard
and turn back
hang
around.
out for a moment and go, what am I doing out here? And he'd come back in the house. So,
Teresa, thank you. Yeah. She is gorgeous. She is gorgeous. She's a brindle Dane. I think she'll settle in. It's just going to take her time to settle in. So what we're trying to do right now is just not spook her.
The problem is you can't do much bonding through walks and the normal things to go do a bunch of time with them because
we can't get a collar.
You can't get a collar. You can't spend time petting her or whatever because she's not ready for that yet.
So basically, we're working with the treats just to get her used to us touching her. That's my goal. Get her used to coming up to us and touching her. And if she's been like passing right next to me recently, so every time
that sometimes,
every time she does that, I've been like running my hand down the back.
She touched my hand twice, she touched my hand this morning when I was in bed.
She was trying to get you out of bed.
Yeah, but then I got up and she's like, "I'm out of here."
Yep. I think because I had already gotten up and gotten out. Yeah. So I'm just reading the next comments. Trying to protect me from 2 dogs heading our way, but it was a big. Oh no.
Yeah. Neither even our Saint Bernard, who was very strong.
Yeah.
None of our Danes or Bernards understand how strong they are, so they don't pull very hard on the leash.
No. Oh, Boomer did. We had to adjust his leash. We actually used one of the Holt harnesses for his head, but he didn't pull unless he was upset with a stranger.
Yeah.
That was the only time.
He gets adrenaline like.
Yeah.
But in general, they have no idea. They would pull a little bit, but if you put a little weight into the leash, they weren't going to take anybody off their feet. That was
no.
They didn't understand how strong they were.
Yeah. But I think part of it was Boomer's head halter actually kept him from pulling, because if he pulled, it turned his head back towards me.
Turned his head, which stopped him.
Which is the point of the Holt, which I do like that type of head halter for a dog who has issues, because you're not dealing with holding their body weight. You're actually, if they pull, they turn their head back to you, which gets their line of vision off of what they're looking at.
Works basically like a horse, where you pull the reins and twist. You pull their head far enough over that their body has to follow, and they pretty much stop. Or the big dogs, it pulls their head down. So if they really jump up aggressively, they
can't.
They fall. They roll onto their shoulder or onto their head, because
if they go too hard.
The weight comes off of it, which is good if there's a bad incident or something's happening. It actually moves them to the ground instead of up, and you have a lot more control. And
not really the purpose of it. The purpose of but
generally it just works as a good lead that doesn't pull on their neck. And it also keeps them
or
training,
the body. I mean, the Easy Walk harness
off the chest.
That's off the front of the chest, which is supposed to turn their body towards you if they pull. But if you have a giant dog who figures that out, like Boomer did, it didn't work. The head harness worked for him, and that was, we used a Holt, but there's also a Halty. But the Holt actually had a safety mechanism where it had a part of it came down and attached to the collar, where Halty didn't have that.
Because he wriggled out of it once or twice. And the only thing left was the little tag cord, which was fairly strong. Holding onto his collar, which then you could reposition. So. We did find out the Danes don't like the Holts across their nose.
Well, at least
their
ours
eyes.
didn't.
Many of them don't.
They had one on their Dane, but Jello dealt with it, but he kind of didn't like it. He always rubbed his nose.
I think it either bothered his vision or just having it touching his top of his bridge of his nose.
Just because the head shape.
And we were told different. Actually that's most Danes do not like that.
And some Danes do end up with neck problems with Jello. We had that problem, so we stopped using that because we didn't want to pull on his neck if he was having neck issues. So we went back to Easy Walk for our Dane, for the harness that goes on the body and connects in front. So different techniques. I did walk Puddin when your sister was here, and she walks really nicely. She walks right beside me. She doesn't have a preference for one side or the other, but she basically stays at your side, whichever side she's at. So, I mean, I'm hoping eventually that we'll be able to get that collar on her. And once we get a collar on her, I don't think it's going to be a problem getting her on walks. It's just she's not trusting us to put things over her head yet. So we'll hold off and wait until she's ready. Try not to freak her out too much.
We should have got a collar on before my sister left.
Probably should have.
I guess she doesn't wear a collar a lot of the time, although sometimes.
Well, she had a chain collar, so a choke collar, but and you don't want those on them all the time. But we could have put one of our collars on her when your sister was here, but oh well. Okay, told us to do the head one. Well,
if it works and it doesn't bother them, it's a great solution. It's just they're sometimes kind of.
Their nose goes out from their eyes. So like if you think of their vision, it's that head harness goes right across the top of the nose. Sometimes I think for our Dane, our previous Dane, it just bugged him because it was right in front of the lower part of his vision. Our Saint Bernard, his face went down and then out to his nose a little more. So even though it was on his nose, it wasn't in his vision so much.
Him at all.
No, he didn't care. But it might depend on the dog. And the other thing is just watch for any, because one thing Danes have that our dog Jello had was wobbler syndrome, and that is like it's a genetic thing. It's not a congenital thing that they're born with, but it is a genetic thing. Can develop at year 2 or 3 or so, and it pinches the nerves in their spine, right in their neck. So if you have pressure on their head, you don't want to aggravate that. But that's only if they have that issue. If they don't have that issue, then it's fine. That's the reason why we switched him off of our Dane off of the head harness back to the Easy Walk harness, was because he had that neck issue. In fact, we have actually he had his surgery. Was it just after I started making videos? So we have some of our earlier videos. We have a little bit on his story. So if you go back, they weren't as good. We're working on quality of the videos a little bit, so the quality wasn't quite as good at that point, but it does have his story if you go back to some of the old videos. But that's dependent on the dog. If the dog has no neck issues, then the head harness is great. Ours, he dealt with it. We used it until he had neck issues. He just always rubbed his nose on our leg. So whenever we stopped walking, he would rub his nose on our leg. So it kind of bugged him a little bit, but it wasn't that he wouldn't use it. He got excited when we got it out. He had no problem putting it on him or anything like that. Um, so yeah, I mean, we're going to be working on, we'll go through some more training videos with Puddin and kind of give you periodic updates on how she's doing and things. And then we'll go from there because we will do some training with her around here. The other thing, try to see if there's anything else. No, I think we got all that. The other thing I wanted to go through was you didn't go on my walk this morning, but I did pull a series of pictures. We have so many different types of mushrooms out in our woods right now. Now, the ones I have I don't know what they are, so I'm not sure if they're edible or not, but I just took a few pictures. But there was one thing that's out there that a lot of people confuse as a mushroom, which actually isn't. So I'm going to give you guys a pop quiz. You tell me mushroom or not. So the first picture is this, which probably is pretty obvious. That's number one, possible mushroom number one. And I'll give it a few seconds. You have to tell me which one is not a mushroom. So this is number one. This one's number two. Possible mushroom number two. And don't ask me what types.
It looks like we're just around 20 seconds delayed, so okay. It's going to be a bit.
So we'll give you time. So number two, is it a mushroom or not? Number three is this one. Tell me, is it a mushroom or not? Number three. Number four is this one. Is it a mushroom or not? Or you could just say which one is not a mushroom. And I have one more. Number five. And I give my fingers in this picture just for size comparison because that thing's tiny. But which one is not a mushroom? I'll go back one more time. Number one. Number two. Which one's not a mushroom? Number three. Number four. Or number five. So I'll give you a few minutes because there is a couple minutes. There's a delay. Which one's not a mushroom? If you guys want me to go through them one more time, let me know. But there's my pop quiz. So, oh, no, nothing yet. Anyway, so I had like probably about, I don't know, 15 or 20 different types of mushrooms I saw out there, and I didn't know which one. It's not number five. I'll give you that. That's just a tiny, number five is a tiny, tiny mushroom. Nope. Number five is a mushroom. Curie says number two. Nope. That is a mushroom. This one's, okay, so number five was this tiny one. That is a mushroom. Number two was this one, which is a mushroom that is sporing right now.
That's pretty small too, right?
That is fairly small. It's actually probably about the size of maybe just smaller than a quarter, okay. Yeah. A little bigger than a nickel. It's growing off of a tree trunk. Number five was this one that is growing out of the ground along with a bunch of moss, but that is a mushroom. These are mushrooms as well, growing off a tree trunk. So number three is incorrect. It's not, that one is a mushroom. It's very similar to a turkey tail, but it's definitely different. Another polypore. I don't know if it's edible or not. Probably not. And yes, BJ Collar, this is not a mushroom. Number four is what they call Indian pipe or ghost pipe. and it's actually a plant. It's a flower. Those are flowers there, and it's not in any of my uh, edible uh, plant books, but I've seen online that you can eat it. I just don't know if it's very tasty. But someone said you could cook it and it tastes like asparagus, but you know, I've seen that so many times that I don't know if I trust it. But no, this one is actually not a mushroom. We often see it growing under our pine trees.
We get them under our big oaks and back.
Our big oaks sometimes.
Regularly, a few times a year.
I've seen them quite often under the pine trees at the side of the house. This one was growing just beyond where our trail starts, just off the trail. So yeah, a lot of people think that one's a mushroom, and it's actually not. And as it matures, the flower is that part that droops down, but as it matures, it'll actually point straight up at the end. So kind of cool. It has no chlorophyll in it, so it actually it does. From what I read, it has a symbiotic relationship with the rhizomes, which means the fungi in the ground, as well as the roots under trees. So it usually does grow under trees. But yeah, that one's called Indian pipe or ghost pipe, probably because of the white color and shape. So that was kind of a fun one. I just thought I'd bring that up because I actually had a friend down the road who seems to know a lot about plants who was asking, what is that? So I just thought that was cool. The other thing that we had going on, oh, little story. I did put a post in our Facebook page. I didn't get any pictures or videos of this, and because it was in the middle of the night and didn't think about it. But in the middle of the week, I think it was Wednesday night, our cat decided to catch a bat and release it in our bedroom.
I remember this. I was awake.
Well, we both woke up.
You're telling me like it's something new.
No, it's not.
But I'm aware there was a bat.
Yeah, of course.
It was a good sized bat too.
It was a good sized bat.
I have no idea how he got it in here, and the doors we think were closed, so we don't know when he brought it in.
So
or if it
was inside. How it made its way inside.
Plus, the main door has a screen on it.
Yeah.
So it seems like the cat would have had to almost bring it in. I don't think a bat would have come in that way.
I don't know, unless there's some other way it could get into the house. I'm not sure. I would think if it could get into the house, it would be the attic, but we don't go up there.
Yeah, there's no access point. So.
No.
And the fireplace has closed heavy doors on it. So
yeah, so the fireplace isn't.
It had to come in probably with the cat, but
I'm guessing, but it must have come in earlier then, and he released it somewhere else, and then brought it to us.
And then he got it again or something. I don't know. It's crazy.
He was playing with it. He was going nuts.
Well, we heard this crazy
clicking,
squeak and clicking, and we're like, "What in the world's in here?"
Like, I was like, "What does the cat have?" And then you go, and I'm like half awake, and what does the cat have? And you're like, a fuzzy toy. I'm like, that's not a toy.
There's like a little squeaky fuzzy toy that's in the room sometimes. Yeah. I thought it was that.
No, it was. I'm like, it's not a toy. So I turn on the light, and he releases a bat in the room, and it's flying in circles in our room. So I'm like, and the cat is like watching and like chasing it underneath, trying to catch up with the thing. So I put the cat out of the room, close the door, close our closet door, close our bathroom door, open our door that we have off our bedroom to our backyard, and try to get it to go out. Now, it didn't want to fly low enough, though.
Yeah, it went by the door many times, but it didn't want to go
circles and circles up by the ceiling. It was going nuts, and it seemed to start getting tired after a bit, too, because it was like coming down a little bit and then going back up.
Which is, we needed it, we needed it to drop down just to go out. It's a big door, but we have lots of bats around here.
Which I don't mind. They eat mosquitoes, but
we just don't get them in the house.
Yeah, that was the first. We've had other things in the house that the cat has brought in. We had a baby squirrel once. We've had, I think, mainly chipmunks every once in a while.
Mice and chipmunks and shrews and the little rodents.
Yeah, the little rodents usually. But oh my gosh, that was like, took us a half an hour to get that darn bat out of the house.
Crickets. Few days ago.
Yeah, he does catch crickets. He likes to catch crickets. And he hardly eats any of them. But he might kill them. But anyway, oh my gosh, that was not a good night's sleep. Put it that way. I think it was like 3:30 or 4 in the morning when that happened.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that happened this week. Another thing that happened this week before we get on to our Foraged Food feature, which we do every week. But yesterday I had our permaculture class again, and this week's feature was, or this week's discussion was on water strategies. And of course, this depends on your soil type and whether you're on flat surfaces or on slope surfaces and things like that. Um, Oh, fun. Cat who brought her
Yeah, we
snakes.
haven't had any snakes brought in.
I actually don't mind snakes. I used to catch them as a kid, but that's usually my job. Catch whatever animal the cat brings in and put it back outside. But yeah. So, yeah. I have bat you have bat houses. That's helpful.
Yeah, our neighbors have bats. The previous neighbors said that some lived in the house in
In the eaves.
eaves,
Yeah.
which was fine. And we have tremendous amounts of mosquitoes and bugs, so we know that they're out there.
Yeah.
You can see them at dusk, at heavy dusk. They're always
flying
they're always
around
out
our
there,
house.
and we don't mind at all.
Yeah, bats and bluebirds. Those two things I'll keep around all day. They both eat mosquitoes and dragonflies. And we had a swarm of dragonflies this spring.
Yeah, we had a lot.
Like thousands of dragonflies flying. They've tapered off, but
we also had really heavy mosquito season.
Yes, and I think that was probably why. But and you don't want standing water. Going back to water management. No, there's a whole point of, and we're talking about what you want to do with your water is basically to spread it out, slow it down, and keep it on property, soak it in on property, not open or you'll breed mosquitoes. Some people will do swales and stuff. That's usually more for people on hills, and that way it can move slowly down, but moving water is less likely to breed mosquitoes. And that way it'll soak in as it goes down, or have a pond at the top of the hill so that all the water soaks into the ground, and as it moves down the hill, it waters the whole area down. He's talking about putting forest areas actually retain about 99% of the water that lands in the forest. So if you do areas of wooded areas, that will actually help retain water, and the area around the forest will have a lot of water.
Which I think is the old Joel Seltz and other people. So the old farm strategy was at least 25% of your land should be heavy old growth forest that's undisturbed. Some of it's for selective logging for building or fires, but a lot of it has to do with shade and water management as it flows in the greater area. That if you build that, you maintain your fields. People say, well, I want more fields to grow. And it's like, no, you're going to get better growth if you maintain a decent percentage of heavy hardwoods, even if you're rotating those and also using those as part of an income or use on your property.
Yeah. So, and the Lillie House where we have where I have permaculture class is on a hill. They have
pretty good hill.
Yeah, pretty good hill. So what they've actually done are a couple strategies. They've taken logs and will put the log at they run their beds on contour. So if the hill's going this way, they run the beds this way. So if they're going down perpendicular to the direction of the hill slope. And they'll put a log at the base of each bed, and that way as the water runs down, the log actually slows down the water, absorbs some of the water, but also the soil gets trapped behind it. So you're actually saving your soil from running off as well. And that's the problem when you have running waters, you end up having a lot of erosion. So that was one discussion, one way of doing it. Another thing they were talking about was keyline plowing. They actually put this method to use from they have collection barrels on their house, which is a nice old Victorian house, but 2 collection barrels taking most of the rainwater off the house, and one of them goes into a hose that they basically plowed down along the edge of the beds going downhill, and then a little bit across, just one little row, and then put stones in there, and that just directs the water, slows it down a little bit, and then the cross flow, the water will kind of follow the stone paths and then absorb into the land around it, which was kind of cool. You can always do your swales and micro swales and all that. for flat land, they were talking about circle gardens with deep mulch basins, and that's what I was explaining to you a little bit earlier. You dig out about 2 feet down, you line it with clay, you put in about a foot of mulch along with worms, and then put your soil in the last foot and let it be a raised bed, and you plant into that. They also suggested having a tube going down to the mulch area where you can add more worms if needed. So that was another way to hold the water, and you're holding all that organic matter along with that water in your bed, and basically compost tea your bed and feed your bed with it. So those are actually those are wicking worm beds. The circle gardens are deep mulch basins, so you dig it out and just mulch the whole things, and of course forests in there too. So cool things. And we have comments. Dragonflies, yes. Sorry, got behind on them. Made your dad visit you to see the bats. That's funny. Yeah. Oh, happy birthday to your dad. Okay. So those were kind of the main discussions, but then we walked around the property a little bit and discussed how they're implementing some of these systems and things. And we're always watching for interesting plants. So one that has a really interesting flower, this is native to Michigan. This is actually the flower of a groundnut. It's a vine that's native to Michigan. You can eat the nuts from below. I think some other parts of the plant are edible too, but it has a really interesting flower, and I guess it's pretty rare to see it in flower, so we got to see that too, which was just kind of cool. So it's definitely getting into more and more ideas on what kind of plants I want to plant and get a hold of for our food forest and other areas. One thing we're talking about is blocking the view from the fenced backyard to where you have the door for the business, so that we don't have to worry about dog barking at anyone entering and leaving that door. So getting plants that deal with the shade, because we have a big oak tree and that's on the north side of the building and things. So lots of different things to do. And we can actually probably direct some of our water off our roof to that area if we wanted to help water those plants.
We don't have tremendous water issues. But
no. Well, our biggest water issue is it goes through our sand all the way. It doesn't leave our property. It goes under our property. It just doesn't stay to the surface available to our plants very well because we're completely sandy here, very flat. So our biggest thing is building the soil. Building the soil, good soil will hold water, and that's part of it. The other thing we talked about is using logs around beds, because the logs will hold water, and plants grow better next to logs. So that was another thing they were suggesting, and that they were kind of implementing that on their property in a couple ways for a couple purposes. So a lot of good information there too. I figure I'd just pass it on, and if you're ever interested, I did link the webpage for the Lillie House down below, and they also have a Facebook page where they often have interesting articles. So if you're ever interested in checking them out, they are local here to Kalamazoo. So a lot of what they talk about is what works well for our climate, but a lot of it will apply anywhere, basically. So that was on that side. If anyone has questions about the water management ideas, just let me know. But we'll otherwise go to our foraged food unless you have any questions. I didn't go through all of them with you.
Nope.
Since it's 9:40 already, we'll get on to our foraged food. And if you didn't know, you can always watch our Facebook page or group. But our web page is also linked in the description below, and you can follow along there as well. I put a post up on Fridays for the Foraged Food Friday, and we talk about it in our group here. So let me actually pull that up here as well. This week's Foraged Food Friday is black cherry, which was Mike's idea because he noticed that they were falling from the trees right now, basically. So they are ripening right
Yeah,
now.
for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
They're a little bit. There's a relatively good season on them.
Yeah.
So based on the light and where different parts of the tree ripen.
Yeah. So if you want to follow along on the web page, you can always go to the web page, and I have a little blog right up on black cherry trees. This is a picture of one of our bigger black cherry trees on property. If you look at it, it has kind of this, a lot of people call it like a burnt potato chip bark kind of on the older trees. It looks like a flaky bark, very dark color, and not always that big, but that one's one of our bigger ones and very tall. And the main thing that you eat from the black cherries, of course, are the cherries, which are very small cherries. You eat them when they turn completely black, or they will be kind of bitter and tannic. Some trees apparently have very sweet berries. Some of them aren't so sweet and might be bitter. It depends on the tree. They tend to be more sweet. I learned from our permaculture guy. They tend to be more sweet if they're in a very sunny, exposed area. And this tree is so tall, it's probably taller than half the trees around it. So, yeah. So
80,
these are sweet.
It's 80 to 100 feet tall.
Yeah. They do have mostly pit in the middle, but a lot of people will use those black cherries, in a lot of ways. You can dry them, you can use them fresh as a snack, you can make brandied cherries with them, you can use them in breads and other pastries and things, make them into jam or jelly. And some of the ones that are a little more tart, you could still make into jams or jelly. Of course, you can sweeten it with sugar. You can make them into a juice. You boil them and then smash them and strain them. And of course, you can ferment that juice into an alcoholic beverage. One thing that I didn't have in this post that happened to be one thing we tried at permaculture class yesterday, just happened to be the same timing, was basically a soda made from wild black cherries. They basically took alcohol extract of the berries, so covered them in alcohol, and then took some of that off and mixed it with seltzer water, or had their own water carbonation system set up. So they made basically a black cherry pop, which was really good. So we were trying their black cherries. He has some sweet ones on his property as well. The pits you can cook. You don't want to eat the pits raw, because they do have some, what do you call it, hydrocyanide or hydrocyanic acid, which is cyanide, kind of like apple seeds and things like that. You try not to eat those, or not too many of those. But if you cook them, that breaks down and they have an almond flavor, because it is related to an almond. So some people will use the crushed pits to flavor things. That's another use. The black cherry has some medicinal uses that have been traditionally used and turned into current medicines. The inner bark of the black cherry tree is actually used in commercial cough syrups as a expectorant. So it is used regularly. So if you don't want to over harvest any bark on any tree, but you can harvest the inner bark off a black cherry tree, or use some of the smaller twigs and extract. You could boil them and extract that compote. You can use it to treat sore throats as well. Some people have used the fruit to treat like chronic pain from arthritis and those sorts of things.
It's supposed to be good for gout, for clearing the purines.
I'd heard that. I hadn't seen it written anywhere, but I have heard that.
I have heard it. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
For clearing, definitely clearing the purines out of the system.
Which would probably be why possibly linked to arthritis.
Yeah.
If it's clearing out some of the byproducts.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you think usually that starts in the smaller joints, like in the toes is the most common place. So that would help clear that system out and prevent some of the crystals building up, and gout can lead to arthritis, so that might help prevent it too. Um, you can do a tincture of the flowers or young branch tips and treat it like an almond extract. And some people use it as like a digestif. Um, and then, of course, the fruit juice is really high in vitamin C and other antioxidants and have some anti-inflammatory properties, which also may help with things like arthritis. So a lot of uses there. The only other use I found was inner bark can make, the Native Americans used to make it into cords, so into like ropes and things. The only warning about it is eating the pits raw. So you don't want to eat the pits or many of them because of the cyanide. But that's the same as with any cherry or apple or anything like that. The black cherry is found all over eastern US, basically east of the Rockies, but I think it goes all the way out in the southwest out to New Mexico area. Usually found in hardwood forests. They are the tallest of the cherry trees. They can grow up to 80 feet high, and I've saw one book said over 60 feet, one book said over 80 feet, and one book said up to 100 feet.
Our trees are between 80 and 100 feet.
They're big.
Here, so
yeah, so they could definitely. This one I have the picture of actually is probably one of our biggest ones on property, and it's right in the middle of our front yard. So yes, they can grow very high, which also makes them hard to harvest. You can pick up the cherries off the ground, which is what we did, and to try them, and found that they were very sweet. All I did was basically pick the ones that looked the most plump off the ground to try. Trying to see if, one of the reasons why it's all over the eastern side of the country is it actually is very good at surviving fires and logging. You cut it down, it'll grow back. So actually one of the things that our permaculture guy suggested was if you find a tree that has very sweet fruit, like you pick up a few off the ground and you taste it's very sweet, you can coppice the tree, cut it down to like 3 or 4 feet tall, and it'll send out new branches, and you can basically have a black cherry tree bush with a lot more branches coming off of that stump. And after a couple years after doing that, it'll start producing flowers and fruit again and within reach. So hi Puddin', good morning. Dog woke up. So you can actually do that to the trees. Now we were talking about the bigger trees may not survive it, the smaller trees are more likely to survive that. So I'm not sure if we could do it to our 100-foot tree here. Yeah, hi Puddin'. Hey, should we see if we meet the dog? You want a treat? Want a treat? Don't move. Come on. Anyway, so I think she's gonna be nervous for me. Maybe. We'll see if we can get her up here. Are you having trouble?
Well, I haven't been able to look at the chat, so.
Oh, well, it's right there. Okay.
You've had other stuff up, so I have no idea if anybody said anything.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I was going back and forth. Yeah, it is. Thank you, Seven Sprouts. It is a pretty tree. It's huge. We have a lot of black cherry trees on property, which is nice. It's just hard to reach those cherries because they're so tall. Free fruit is just fine by me. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're trying to turn that front area into a food forest, and I think I'm getting her to come. Yay! There's Puddin' for you. We're trying to turn that front into a food forest, and we already have fruit trees there. So if we can figure out how to take advantage of it, that would be great. Also, she's not going to come this time. The other thing we have out front are locusts, which are supposed to be nitrogen fixers, and you can eat their flowers. But again, they're hard to reach because they're so tall. But you can coppice them too.
Well, you bring in flower for a few days, a week.
Yeah, you gather a bunch of them in the spring. And you can eat the pods too, I believe. I'd have to double check on that. But I haven't tried that. And I think it's only fresh. You don't want the dried one. So again, if they're so tall that you can't reach the fresh ones, yeah, and they don't drop until they're dried. So you coppice those too, and they're nitrogen fixers. So we have a natural mix of nitrogen fixing trees and cherry trees and maple trees out front. If we open up a little more sunshine by coppicing a few trees, then we'll be able to plant other things around that and create a little more of a food forest. So that's kind of why I'm taking this class, is to get ideas on how to do that. And of course, we'll kind of walk you through what we design and what we decide to do with that as we go. But that is going to be a long-term project. It's going to be a slow go on things. Um, she's jumping. She's getting on the couch now. Um, so yeah, we have a lot going on there, but the black cherry is actually kind of, you see another dog in your future. I think Puddin needs a friend eventually too.
The cat might handle some of it.
Yeah, the cat might become a friend as well. So yeah, we 2 dogs is not a bad thing though. Just to get off topic here. Okay, so Carrie grew up with Bing cherry in the backyard. Yep.
We have a commercial cherry orchard just over a mile from us, actually 2 of them.
Oh, there's tons of them in this area. This whole west side of the state has a lot of cherry orchards. The problem is with the commercial cherry trees is a lot of them take a lot of spraying. The one advantage of the black cherry, the wild black cherry tree, we have a lot of plum curculio in the area, which get the apples and get the cherries and the plums, of course, and all the stone fruit. But I guess with the black cherries, they can get in there, but there's less, there's so many berries and they're so small that you still end up with a lot of good fruit from the wild black cherry trees. Whereas if you plant a commercial cherry tree, they're more likely to have, if you don't do something, either spray or cover the fruit with some bags, you're not likely going to get many fruit. The black cherries, if they're infected, they fall off early. So, and we notice that with our apples. Our apples are dropping, the infected apples are dropping right now. Our other apples aren't quite ready yet. We did cover a bunch. We have a video on that, how to do that with wedding paper bags covering. You could do that with almost any of those types of fruit. You could do that with grapes and cherries and plums and peaches and all those, just to prevent the pests from getting in and ruining the fruit. We have not gotten any apples over the 4 years, 3 seasons that we've been here. We're going to be getting some this year because we covered the fruit with these wedding paper bags. So that will be thing.
Some of the trees this week. We figured out what varieties.
What 2 of them are.
2 out of the 3 are.
Yeah.
So
we should make a video on that.
Could.
We could, because we should probably taste or show the difference between the apples and.
My thought is they're pretty generic.
They are.
Rootstock, probably from a commercial nursery or home store. They were not yielding anything that was real exciting to us.
Yeah.
Which may factor in even further on how we reposition, whether we try and salvage or
whether we
take them out or just leave them alone.
Let them do what they want to do and just let them.
Because they're not in a real high light area.
Yeah. Some of them, the front ones, get a bit of light, but it shades so much there. That's another reason why we want to open up the front a little more, so we can bring in some additional fruit trees out front, and maybe some more hardy fruit trees for the region. There is a specific type of cherry that seems to do better in this region and a little bit more hardy. I think it's the Cornelian cherry. There's a dogwood. There's a couple dogwoods that you get the fruit off of, but the Coosa dogwood is one that they were recommending at our class. So they have a lot of good recommendations for hardy fruit for this area. And some of them not so traditional fruit, like gummy berries, which are similar to autumn olive but bigger. So, and they're very hardy to the area. So that might be one. We do have a lot of autumn olives in back though. So we can't plant autumn olives because they're considered invasive species here, but since they volunteered in back in our forest, we can harvest from them. So anyway, anything else I missed? If we get a second dog, what kind of dog would we get?
I don't know.
Puddin isn't fixed. Your sister was considering breeding her. We haven't figured out if we'd want to fix her. If we don't, we'd have to get a female dog. Oh, I guess another thing was it since the last live show we met our new neighbors. Unfortunately, the woods lot next to us was sold. Unfortunately, meaning that someone's going to build a house there. Hopefully, not cut down too much.
Yeah, well, I think they said they want to keep a lot of the woods, but we know that to put a house in requires removing a lot of the woods, so that's fine. It was nice having it there. It's been there for a long time. It's some of the older growth in the area, but it's for sale, and we didn't buy it, so they're going to do whatever they want. They seem very nice. It's a younger family, so I'm sure they're going to be good neighbors. Just it will change our planning and how we handle how we just handle the light and growing and how we position our yard and perspective to other things around it.
Yeah, and we're going to have to work with whatever they end up doing there, because that actually, the woods on that side is on the west side of our house. It blocks a lot of the wind, the winter wind and things. Opening it up on one hand might be...
It's also the moistest area, so it helps improve our moisture and other things. So we'll just have to see how that changes.
Yeah.
But we have woods in back that's ours.
Yeah. So, and those are, our woods in back is more new growth. So we do have that. But yeah, so we'll have to see how that goes and how it might affect what we're doing in front. But that's going to be, our front project is going to be multi-year project. And our neighbor's going to be a multi-year project.
They're not looking to have a house finished for a couple of years. So they're just in the planning stage and took advantage of getting the property. So
so yeah, that we have going on. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that came up this week. But they have, I know what, I brought that up. They are related to a Great Dane breeder. That came up in your discussion as well. So before we do anything permanent to Puddin', we have to decide, would we want to breed her or not? That would be a question. That'd be one way to get a puppy. And a second dog. She has good bloodlines. We have AKC. Well, we will be getting the AKC papers for her. So, I mean, technically, you can sell Great Danes. They tend to have big litters. They're like 8 to 12 puppies a litter, and you could sell them anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500. The stud the family that the stud comes from, we usually gets, one of the first dibs on a puppy, and whether or not we'd keep one, but that would be one possible way we eventually get a second puppy. We have to think about it. But we're seeing where we're going with that. Right now, we're just doing our training and getting her used to us and going from there. But any other questions? I think it's 10 o'clock already. Probably, almost. Yeah. Well, 9:59. So we probably could start wrapping up. We did get through everything I had on my list here, I believe, of what I was going to talk about. Yeah. I think we went over everything. So, if there's any questions about any of it, any requests for any foraged food features, if they are on our property, we can do them. I do have a couple ideas for the next couple, but I'm always looking for ideas. Uh-oh, Carrie lost power for a second. Yeah, good thing you're watching on your cell phone, not your laptop. It's harder to type on the cell phone, though, I find. But, yeah, any foraged food features you want me to put on my list to do, let me know. A couple things we did plant out front already. We planted pawpaw, and we planted elderberry, and we planted a few other things. Only some of them survived, but one that has survived because it's native, I think, is I'm blanking on the cactus. The prickly pear. The prickly pear, which is native to Michigan. Who knew? But yeah, sandy soils and a lot of beaches on the west side of the state, and prickly pear takes off. So we have some things in the ground. Oh, and we have some currants. We planted some currants.
Pretty well.
They're doing pretty well. So we got some things. I have a few trees in a pot. I have what they call beach plums, which are supposed to be really tart plum that are not usually eating plum, but more for jams and pies and things like that. So I was given 3 saplings, got those transplanted into a little bit bigger pots, and eventually we'll find homes for them. I want to get them a little bigger because they're about this big right now. So we got a number of things going, and I should make a video on the food forest. So there's one new feature we got to do. But that's a slow go, so it's hard to make a video because we're always doing just one thing here and one thing there. But maybe I'll give you a tour of what we have so far. Carrie, goats are happy. Threw open the gate to the veggie garden. Oh no. Oh, you threw it open. I thought they threw it open because you lost power. So they're doing the weeding. Well, yeah, that would make goats happy. Goats are good weeders. So are chickens. They do a pretty good job. Although chickens don't like a couple things. They don't like plantain. For some reason, our chickens don't like plantain, which is fine. I use it.
Hi, Helix.
Helix just came in to say hi. Well, hi, Helix. Talkative cat. Yeah, so yeah, that's what we have going on. I have a couple videos to come. We'll do some more training videos with Puddin'. We'll do oh, we have a 6 chicken. I have a video started on that. I have to finish that. So there's that coming too. The garden is a failure. Oh no.
We had things start late, but then we got hot. We got wet and hot, and things really took off. Then we got really dry.
Yeah.
And hot.
We burned out our corn.
We burned some stuff, but things progressed really fast. So we started out almost a month behind, really behind, and we're almost running ahead right now. So.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Our autumn olives are, well, they're not in our garden, but they're starting to ripen up, which is a little early, I think, for them. I think they were ripening in September last year, but they'll go all fall. Mandy, next time we're up in Michigan, we'll have to look you up. Yeah, absolutely.
We're not far from Grand Rapids, and yes, traditionally the majority of campers were built in and around Michigan, northern Indiana, a lot right where we're in our general area, within an hour of here. A huge number of trailers and RVs and conversions were all done. A lot of it's moved south, but there still are big companies.
A lot of good campgrounds.
Yep. So and Michigan's a huge camping state.
Yeah. And we are just outside of Kalamazoo, basically. So we're on the west side of the state, which I think is the pretty side of the state. The east side of the state is a lot more city. But we're from Ann Arbor. We're from the east side of the state originally, but yeah, so yeah, absolutely. You'll have to look this up.
We're in the fruit belt now, so it's the east side of the state is more grain, and it doesn't have the same natural effects for the fruit. So.
Yeah.
Only weeds and
eat all my peppers, tomatoes, etc.
We're getting a little late blight on our tomatoes because it's been warm, but the mornings have been cool, and we've had lots of dew and high humidity, so we're getting that classic late blight.
The volunteers tend to do the best, and frankly, volunteers aren't a bad thing. We had volunteer tomatillos everywhere, which we're harvesting. We didn't plant a single tomatillo.
For the last 2 years, we haven't planted any.
No, I did last year.
Did you?
Yeah, I did last
year. The purple ones, I guess.
But yeah.
But yeah, they just pop up and we take what we need, which works good.
And then we planted ground cherries for the first time this year, and we have like 2 quarts of ground cherries already.
Yeah, they're starting to do well.
Yeah. They actually, that was interesting. I didn't do any video on them. I did soil blocks for all those plants, other than the tomatillos. I did soil blocks, and when I hardened off the ground cherries, something was eating them. Like, I didn't think they were going to survive, so I went and spread them out. Didn't want them anywhere near each other in case whatever ate them was going from one plant to the other. I was hoping maybe we get 1 or 2 surviving out of the 3 that I had make it to the ground. So put all 3 in. We still have all 3. They took off. I mean, they
took a while, but yeah, now
they did take a while to get going, but they're now going. And that's another one that over at Lillie House, they often will have volunteers. Their biggest ground cherry is actually bushing up a bit. Ours are all along the ground. But theirs is actually bushing up a bit and found a spot which it really liked, and it's a volunteer. Potatoes, you can have volunteer potatoes. If you forget any little potato from last year, you'll get a volunteer back, and basically they'll perennialize themselves. We'll get volunteer tomatoes. Last year, I think, harvested more volunteer tomatoes than tomatoes that we planted.
I don't know if it was quite that, but
it was a lot. Yeah. A lot of the cherries. Yeah. And I think we had one that went from a hybrid to whatever its original, because it was a funny shape. I think that was originally a cherry that we planted, cherry tomato. But and our volunteer pumpkins are doing better than our planted pumpkins. Mm-hmm. We're getting a lot of volunteer pumpkins, and have a volunteer turban squash, which I didn't plant any turban squash this year, but we have that. So sometimes you just got to go with what wants to grow and where it wants to grow. I'm very flexible with that. And as far as my weeds are concerned, well, I did put a video together on that a couple weeks ago. My viewpoint of weeds. Yes, we are overrun with weeds, and right now a lot of ragweed, which we can cut back.
Get all that cut out.
But use it as mulch. I just need to find time to use it. Mm-hmm. Find time. I did half of it. We have plantain, which I use on my mosquito bites. We have that's growing in the garden. You can use one thing that Mike over at Lillie House was suggesting. He likes having pokeweed grow in the garden because he just cuts it down and uses it for mulch, because it'll grow back, but cuts it down, uses it for mulch. So it's just, on one hand, it's perspective a little bit, but we also put we tend to overplant. We do biointensive. We overcrowd our plants. We probably did a little more than we needed to with our tomatoes this year, but that also helps outcompete the weeds. So you don't have we hardly have any weeds growing where our tomatoes are growing, just because we have tomatoes, peppers, herbs, and flowers all growing in the same bed up with each other. And there's just no room for the weeds to grow. They just can't make it. So that's been an advantage. The only place we're really getting weeds are actually where our squash are. And I guess it didn't shade it out as much. Our squashes and our melons. That's where we're getting most of our weeds. Well, they're not
doing real well.
They aren't. And that might be part of it. They're not doing as well. And we probably should have planted some other things mixed in with them, and that might have helped as well. But we didn't do sweet potatoes this year. I do want to try potato slips
again. We tried to put some Asian sweet potatoes in, and
right.
They didn't take.
They didn't take, but we didn't really put them in prepped soil areas. We put them in by our apple trees. So we may have needed just to prep the soil a little more. We did put peanuts by our apple trees and some sunchokes by our apple trees, and those are both growing. Sunchokes are growing funny. They're growing tall on one side of the apple trees and really short on the west side is really tall, and the east side is like a third of the height. It's only like 2 feet on the east side of the apple trees.
We did have a couple different types of sunchokes.
Those were all the same types. Yeah. So I don't know if it's just, microclimates. They will grow well where they like to grow. But we didn't put them in the garden because they do tend to want to take over things. They are hard to restrict to an area. But they make a lot of good green manure, so you can chop those and drop them around the apple trees, and you're basically fertilizing your apple tree with it. So that was kind of our idea with that. A lot of people do that with comfrey, but I like to be able to eat the roots of sunchoke, so why not?
Comfrey doesn't grow on our soil anyways.
It doesn't grow on our sandy soil very well. You like to grow sweet potatoes and straw bales. Yeah.
I didn't know they grew in the straw bales.
Of course. That would make it easier to harvest them, I would think. Yeah, so we'll try sweet potatoes again at some point. We just didn't want to try it this year. We had so many other things going. But it is nice to have some calorie crops like potatoes and stuff, not just your greens and fruits. Anyway, got a lot going. I definitely need to do another garden update, so that'll be coming out in the next couple weeks. I got to get out there and
We
do
need
it.
to pick the beans again.
Yes, we have a crazy number of beans everywhere, but we did that on purpose. It helps our soil grow. Super easy. Yeah, I bet. You know what I found very easy is planting potatoes in our hugel bed. Because I could dig that hugel bed out really easily, and I'm not digging, like, reaching down as far. So it's a raised bed, and digging them out of there is a little easier. Now, the only issue is the soil starts sliding down. I push the soil back up on the hugel bed as I pull them out. And they basically, I didn't plant any there this year, but they basically perennialized from last year. That's where I planted them last year. Now, obviously, I missed some of them, and I'm sure I'll miss some again. I also have garlic growing there as well. And sorry about that. Guess I didn't mute my computer. Good thing nothing else went off. But yeah, so we'll have to get some more things in our hugel bed. We have some herbs in there, some lavender in there, and potatoes and garlic in there. So that's another thing we'll have. I want to get that a little more perennialized, so we don't have to keep planting in there. You buy potato starts locally, but they never go. We just start them from our grocery store.
I think potato starts are crap. People, they're never available when you need them. You order them and they send them out. They're stupid expensive.
Yeah.
The Johnny's and everybody else. So we never buy them.
No.
I go to the grocery store. I buy the nice, sometimes the organic or whatever. I get the nice mixed ones that they do now.
Yeah.
Or I get
like
red potatoes But if I can get the mixed ones that have 3 or 4, I just use those and I put the small ones in either whole or halves. And sometimes we soak them, sometimes we direct plant them.
You know what I've been doing?
We've always gotten a yield, so I think the whole potato start thing is junk.
But we've also what we do is plant them in the fall
and leave the little stuff from the year. Yeah. From what we harvest, just put it back.
So I mean I don't know what it'd be like in Texas where you're at, but we definitely plant them in the fall. They hold all winter, and then they start growing when they're ready to go in the spring. So I don't have to worry about when to plant them in the spring. We basically treat them like bulbs. So you have to plant by Valentine's Day. Okay, or it's too late.
Wow. Yeah.
We planted.
We're doing nothing on Valentine's Day around here. We're snow.
We're covered in snow.
People have bought seeds or are finishing buying seeds.
We're harvesting on Valentine's Day because we have our hoops that we harvest.
Well, potentially, yes. But yeah, we're way delayed planting. Yeah.
So we this year we planted Memorial Day weekend. We could have started. We started a few early things, but we could have started more stuff earlier, but we just didn't have time, and we had a lot of rain at that point. And Memorial Day was our first weekend with no rain where we could plant, but it was like 95 degrees. It was crazy. Yeah. Told Valentine's Day. I wonder about fall. Yeah, I mean, I do potato.
Well, Carrie's in Texas. She's got totally different. We have a winter over, so you probably can't summer over and.
Yeah, it's probably I'm not sure if they would start growing during your cooler months. Maybe
probably
they start
would
early.
Actually.
It might be worth the experiment and see if they would. It doesn't hurt. You put a few things in the ground and see if it grows in the cooler months.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not liking the heat. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, ours just start growing whenever it gets warm enough to start growing. So that's why we plant them in the fall. They seem to hold. Anyway, we're now at 10:15, so we'll quit talking about planting potatoes. Maybe I did plant some this spring. I should backtrack. I did plant some this spring. I usually plant all of them in the fall, but when my niece was here visiting, we planted some, and they did come up. I still haven't harvested them. I need to harvest them. I've harvested half the potatoes, not all of them yet, but they did well. Angela and Charlie, Practical Modern. Welcome. I don't know if you've been to our live chat before. Welcome to it, but we do start at 9 and we usually wrap up at about 10. So yeah, we were about to wrap up here. But you can definitely watch the replay once it loads and whatever YouTube does to it once it releases. We did go over a lot with our permaculture class. We went over some stories, and we went over our foraged food feature of the week, which was the wild black cherry tree, which has got a nice fruit on it. So please just feel free to watch that, catch up on it. We're wrapping up because I do have to work in the morning, so I should probably take off, you guys, and say good night to you. I think we still have 8 people in the room here. Oh, we had our one. They're back. Must have gone on vacation. Our one thumbs down person. We always have one thumbs down, except I think they went on vacation for a couple months. Anyway, so we will definitely have to say good night. We had a good discussion. Thanks for joining in, guys. And we will be back next week at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with another Foraged Food feature and some discussions on what we're doing. So talk to you guys later.
Good night.
Bye.